All right, we are about to dive into a story so tangled, so complex, it might just change the way you see a huge chunk of American history. We're pulling this from the book Dr. Mary's Monkey by Edward Haslam. And this isn't just some fringe theory. His research was so meticulous that the legendary JFK assassination researcher Mary Farrell actually called it totally accurate.
And the whole thing kicks off with this incredibly chilling warning that the author got from his own dad. I mean, right from the jump, the stakes are set sky high. This tells you we're not just digging into some forgotten cold case. We are talking about secrets that some very, very powerful people would do just about anything to keep buried.
At the very center of this whole web is the brutal and still unsolved murder of Dr. Mary Sherman. Now, she wasn't just anybody. She was a highly respected cancer researcher right in her prime, living in New Orleans. And her death, well, it wasn't just a tragedy. As the investigation would slowly uncover, it was profoundly weird.
Okay, so look at this. The gap between what the police thought they found and what the autopsy actually revealed is just staggering. The scene looked like a straightforward, if horrible, murder arson. But the science told a completely different story. Dr. Sherman was already dead before that fire was ever started. A key stab wound to her heart? That happened after she was already dead. But the most bizarre part of all, her right arm and torso weren't just burned. They were disintegrated by a heat so focused and so intense it was unlike anything you'd see in a normal house fire.
So this all boils down to two huge questions that really drive this entire story. First, what really happened to Dr. Mary Sherman? And maybe even more important, what earth-shattering secrets did she take to the grave with her? You know, the search for those answers is what peels back the curtain on this hidden world of covert operations.
To even begin to understand her death, the book argues, you have to understand the world she was a part of. And that world included a secret, underground laboratory operating right in the heart of New Orleans in the 1960s.
And this secret world, well, it had a cast of characters that is just unbelievable. First up, you've got Dr. Alton Ochsner, a giant in the world of medicine, a fervent anti-communist who's alleged to be the powerful sponsor behind the whole thing. Then there's David Ferry, this eccentric ex-pilot and associate of Oswald, supposedly the guy running the lab day to day. You even have Lee Harvey Oswald himself, not as the lone nut we've been told about, but as an operative. And finally, Dr. Mary Sherman, the lead scientist. The book puts all four of them in the same orbit, all tied together by this one clandestine project.
So the book's central claim, right, is that these individuals, from the absolute highest level of medicine all the way to the man accused of assassinating a president, were all connected through this one secret medical lab, operating completely off the books.
And believe me, this was not your average lab. It was supposedly run by David Ferry. It housed thousands of mice for experiments. And get this, it was located inside a residential apartment. This wasn't for some university study. The book alleges this place was set up for one reason: covert medical research with a goal that is absolutely terrifying: to weaponize viruses.
So what exactly were they trying to weaponize in there? Well, the book claims the payload was something straight out of a horror movie: highly infectious, cancer-causing viruses that came from monkeys.
And the key piece of tech that supposedly made all of this possible was a linear particle accelerator. Now, we're talking about a seriously powerful piece of equipment. It's a machine that fires a beam of radiation so powerful it can literally alter the structure of cells. Or, as the book speculates happened to Dr. Sherman, it could completely disintegrate human tissue.
So here's how the alleged process worked. First, you get your hands on some highly infectious monkey viruses, like SV40, which, by the way, was already known to cause tumors in lab animals. Second, you zap them with that particle accelerator. The theory is this doesn't kill the virus, it mutates it, turns it into an incredibly aggressive cancer-causing agent. And finally, you test your new bioweapon on thousands and thousands of mice to perfect it.
Now, you've got to be asking, why? Why on earth would anyone do this? Well, the book claims there was this bizarre dual motivation. On one hand, the project was supposedly part of a secret, desperate race to create a cancer vaccine. But at the exact same time, that very same research was allegedly being used to create the perfect biological weapon, a silent, untraceable cancer you could give to a political enemy.
Okay, now this is where things get really wild. Let's see how this secret lab in New Orleans connects to one of the most explosive political conspiracies of the entire 20th century.
The alleged target for this cancer bioweapon? None other than the leader of Cuba, Fidel Castro. Now, if you think about the Cold War context and the CIA's well-documented obsession with getting rid of Castro, this book places that little secret lab right at the center of a massive geopolitical plot.
So, where does Lee Harvey Oswald fit into all this? According to the book, and specifically a witness named Judith Ferry Baker, Oswald wasn't just some guy hanging around. She claims he was her partner in the lab, working side by side with Ferry and a bunch of anti-Castro Cubans to develop this exact weapon. I mean, this paints a picture of Oswald not as a communist sympathizer, but as a deep-cover operative in a right-wing assassination plot.
And then you get this quote. This is a bombshell. It's from Judith Ferry Baker, who says she heard David Ferry say this in his own kitchen. He and Dr. Mary Sherman are cooking up a cancer cocktail to kill Cuban President Fidel Castro. If that's true, well, that one sentence rewrites everything we thought we knew about that time in history.
But what happened after the whole project just imploded with Sherman's murder and the JFK assassination? The book argues the story didn't end there, not even close. In fact, it claims that we might all be living with the consequences today.
The book lays out this really troubling timeline. Check it out. First, from 55 to 61, millions of people get a polio vaccine that was later found to be contaminated with that monkey virus, SV40. Then, in 61, a government virologist named Dr. Bernice Eddy actually warns about a future cancer epidemic because of this contamination. Fast forward to 64, Dr. Sherman is murdered. Then, silence. Until around 1995, when suddenly there's this huge unexplained spike in the exact kind of soft tissue cancers linked to SV40.
And the scale of that spike was just whoa. Between the early 70s and the early 90s, lymphoma and prostate cancer jumped up by 60%. Breast cancer went up by a third. The book poses this terrifying question. Was this the epidemic? Was this exactly what Dr. Eddy had warned everyone about decades earlier?
And the theory doesn't even stop there. The book goes on to speculate that a secret lab, a lab with both the motive and the technology to genetically mutate monkey viruses back in the 1960s, could that also be a possible origin for the HIV/AIDS virus? Another plague that, emerged from monkey viruses and just exploded onto the global scene.
And get this, all of this was happening while the official war on cancer was spending billions upon billions of dollars, $22 billion by 1991 alone. And yet, as the book points out, for all that money, very little progress was being made in preventing the exact types of cancers that were suddenly going through the roof.
So, at the end of the day, you're left with two completely different realities. On one side, you have the official narrative. JFK was killed by a lone gunman, Dr. Sherman's murder is just a tragic local cold case, and our modern epidemics are just unfortunate acts of nature. But in the theory from Dr. Mary's monkey, these are not separate events at all. They are all pieces of one single, massive story about a secret project that went catastrophically wrong.
And that leaves us with one final haunting question. It's really the core thesis of the whole book, connecting a political conspiracy from 60 years ago to the health of every single person on the planet today. Could a secret lab designed to kill just one man have accidentally unleashed the plagues that we're all still dealing with? The book lays out the evidence, but the conclusion, well, that's up to you.